Hello, this is the Great Basin Fire Potential Outlook for May through August. Looking at some of the contents we'll be looking at will be recent weather conditions in terms of precipitation and in the past 30 days as well as over the past winter season. We'll look at snowpack, drought conditions, current fuels, look at some El Nino changes which could affect our expected weather conditions for May through August. And finally, we'll be putting all the pieces together with the fire potential outlook from May through August for the Great Basin. Taking a look at our precipitation on the left-hand side, this is for the month of April. You can see it was quite wet across a good portion of Nevada, especially southern Nevada, into a good portion of western and southern Utah. That does help with the grass crop, which should be developing shortly. It was significantly drier further north into Idaho. On the right-hand side, a bit more telling look at the overall winter and spring season precipitation. Again, wetter across most of northern Nevada, and in those northern elevations, that'll definitely enhance the grass crop, making it better than it has been over the past few years, as well as across parts of southern Nevada and parts of adjacent Arizona, and across parts of southern Utah. But by and large, other areas were a little bit drier than normal for the winter season. So with winter, let's take a look at our snowpack. And if we take a look at the snowpack, about a month ago on the left-hand side, conditions were near or somewhat above normal, given by the keys here, somewhere between 90 and 130% of normal in the green to light blue shadings. But you can see with some of the warmer weather we've had and any storms we had fairly high snow levels, that snowpack has dwindled rapidly in many locations. Now taking a look at the drought situation on the left-hand side, you see the U.S. Drought Monitor, and you can see our most significant drought issues are across a good portion of western Nevada, and also a little bit across the desert areas of western Utah. But on the right-hand side, you'll see that area over Utah should be improving to the point where maybe removal of drought conditions will be warranted, but we are expecting those drought conditions to persist in that dark brown area across western Nevada and back into California. So with that, let's see what our fuels are looking like right now. And looking at our heavier 1,000-hour fuels, quite moist in this dark green area, greater than 20% with the showery weather and some of the higher elevation snows. You can see that it was significantly drier, and of course the 1,000-hour fuels are quite low in the 11 to 15% range across parts of western Nevada. Elsewhere across Idaho and parts of western Wyoming, our 1,000-hour fuels are still quite moist. Focusing more on our greenness, especially with an emphasis on our grass and brush crops in the middle and lower elevations, relative greenness on the left, departure of average on the right, and you can see in a good portion of Nevada where they've been fairly wet this month and the past 6 months, they had some very sunny, warm weather in March, and most areas are greening up earlier than normal in those areas, and also across parts of southern Utah as well. Now looking at large-scale climatic conditions, what kind of El Nino or La Nina effect will we have? Well, here's a look at our El Nino conditions, the warmer than normal waters along the equatorial Pacific. And if we start at the beginning of the loop, much warmer than normal, that strong El Nino, you can see it weakening as we go from February through March and into April. And you can see cooler water, which is actually expected to be the start of the La Nina cold phase, starting up off the Peruvian coast. So the El Nino effect in the sea surface temperatures is pretty much over with. However, there is typically a 1 to 2 month time lag of conditions transferring to the atmosphere. So that warmth of the El Nino that we see here in the first part of the series is still affecting our circulation, and we'll see that in just a moment. So we've looked at the past weather, the drought, snowpack, our fuel conditions. What happens from here is we'll look at predicted weather conditions over the next 4 months. And on the upper screen here for May, June, July, and August, you can see cooler than normal temperatures is a pretty strong signal through May, June, even lingering a bit into July and August. And that is related to El Nino, where you typically have warmer conditions across the Pacific Northwest and cooler and more showery conditions across the southern tier of the western states. And as we go into May, June, July, August on the precipitation front, you can see across a good portion of at least the southern half or southern two-thirds of the Great Basin, May, wetter than normal. June, tapering off, but still a slight wet signal. Same thing into July as the monsoon starts up in Arizona. It's not until August that we see a drying trend in the northern portion of the Rockies and Idaho, starting to transfer further south. So we put all those pieces together, and we come up with the Great Basin fire potential outlook for May through August. May, normal conditions, no problems, should be pretty cool and moist. Far southern areas, this is actually the Arizona Strip bordering southern Utah, going above normal, and that'll translate also into parts of southern Nevada as well. A pretty good grass crop there, and some of the higher terrain in southern Nevada also had a fairly poor snowpack, which should aid some of the heavier fuels in burning. As we go into the heart of fire season in July and August, our area of concern will be northwestern Nevada. Snowpack is dwindling, but the above average precipitation for the lower and middle elevations means a better grass crop, and that'll translate into parts of southern Idaho as well. Taking a look on the national front, you can see that for May, no major concerns. For June, it's mostly southern Arizona, including our portions of southern Nevada and far northwestern Arizona. Below normal across parts of the Gulf states. That's normal for El Nino, so pretty strong springtime El Nino signal, ironically, as the El Nino temperatures are weakening, as we saw before. And then for the heart of fire season in July and August, it's mostly across the Great Basin, along with parts of central and southern California. Far southern California, ironically, missed out on the drought conditions. And across the Hawaiian Islands, which is also typical of El Nino, where they typically get drought, they will continue with above normal fire conditions as well. So summing things up, we expect significant drought conditions across western Nevada, but improving elsewhere further east. Snowpack is below normal across most of the higher terrain except northeastern Nevada, across the Ruby Mountains and some of those areas. Our annual green up is ahead of schedule in most areas, and although the El Nino is weakening, we should see El Nino type conditions with cool, showery weather expected through May and into June in most areas, especially south of Idaho. And with that, we expect above normal fire potential in our far southern areas in June, which should diminish by July with the monsoon. And then for later on in July and August, above normal fire potential across northern Nevada into southern Idaho. This concludes our briefing. Our next monthly and seasonal outlook will be issued on June 1st. Have a great day.